Also, Maggie's butt was beautifully drawn. Always.
Yeah, they did a very good job at making sure that his ass was always accentuated in every scene that you could possibly see it. And any angle that his ass might show up, it was always very well rounded and just constantly protruding out.
I still don't know how I didn't notice it. Hello everyone and beyond, and welcome to yet another episode of the Annie Chat Box, episode 88, I believe. Anywho, as you can probably guess, I am the host today, Jonathan Joestar, as everyone calls me, and I am not alone.
Or are you? Or are you? Are we really here, or is this just...
The entirety of Annie Chatbox is actually just John talking to his imaginary friends.
I mean,
that's impressive considering I wasn't here when it started.
I know, right?
John's just that powerful.
You're just that good.
Anywho, so how about you introduce yourselves? Cassie, you can go first.
I'm here. I'm Cassie. I produce this show. Mostly Craig produces the show now. I'm mostly just a producer and name alone at this point. But I'm here. Also here is you. Introduce yourself.
What? Why do...
You have to... Everybody else has introduced themselves!
I usually get, you guys introduce me.
Okay, fine, John.
Because I'm technically not, an actual...
You may as well be, but
Why?
John, go ahead and give Dominic their fancy title opening, please.
I didn't even give you a fancy title opening.
I know!
But,
They
yes.
think they're so goddamn special!
Why are you throwing this on him? I mean...
Because they're hosting the goddamn episode! That's their job!
Well, it sucks to be you, John.
So yeah, also with us today is Dominic.
This is the part where you say hello.
Hi.
This episode is coming off to a great start, but yeah. Anywho, yay! So, if you're still with us after all of this,
I apologize.
it's fine. You can find us on twitter.com/AnnieChatbox. You can email us at anniechatmail@gmail.com. Write to us your reviews. Tell us how terrible a job we're doing. You can listen to us at iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, YouTube. If we manage to somehow convince you with this to donate to us within your heart of hearts, you can do so at patreon.com/AnnieChatbox.
Thanks again to Sarah CorpsyAnn, who continues to support us. You rock.
We also completely forgot to plug our Oni-chan podcast.
Save Our Progress! So yeah, Save Our Progress will have their link probably, or you could go check them out at SaveOurProgress.com actually does exist, but you want to probably go to soundcloud.com/SaveOurProgress and you can listen to their episodes. They're a what is it called? A multimedia podcast. They just talk about whatever the fuck they feel like, but it's still fun.
Mm-hmm. Including talking about us for, a
little bit.
For about a minute.
Yeah, sometimes they get so bored that all they have left to talk about is us. John, who hurt you? That entire opening was the most pessimistic thing I have ever heard.
if you feel like...
Also, if you want to write us and tell us how terrible we're doing. There was no, or great we're doing. No, we're just doing
If you want to take pity on us and throw us, a few quarters,
I'm just admitting that this episode has been a clusterfuck to start off with.
Honey, there's nothing more fun to watch than a car accident. Or is it a train wreck?
Train wreck.
Train wreck.
Train wreck in slow motion.
Sorry, car crashes are terrible and should not be made to be funny. Train wrecks, which have much more people involved, are much more hilarious.
Wow.
Apparently. Judging by
Also-
society standards.
also, since John brought up the email and everything, I remember you guys got an email.
We're saving our emails for now. We're saving those for an episode where everybody's here.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you haven't read that email?
No, we have not.
Oh,
not
okay.
yet.
All right.
We have quite a few that we're saving.
Yes, that is for another time.
Probably next time, honestly. We'll all
Yeah,
be here
'cause-
next time. So, most likely we'll be checking into our emails.
I mean, I won't be there, but
So you think.
what? I didn't agree to this.
You can still be around for the topic, even if you're not around for the episode.
It's true.
That's true. Then
I've done that plenty of times.
I've listened to that.
We
happen.
can even have you read your email.
Oh, wait! I didn't say it was my email.
Oh, well, you know it's your email.
No, it's sent from iPhone.
Sure it is, honey.
It's sent from iPhone. That's-
Sure it is.
The real sent from iPhone, not that faker who can't even spell it right sometimes.
Okay, moving on.
The topic today that we are going to be talking about that is not involving emails, or maybe somewhat involving the emails, I guess, how we interact with virtual spaces and how it intersects with real life, or takes priority over those aspects. Yeah.
Shoutouts to me for coming up with this topic.
Why don't you get us started?
Huh?
Why don't you get us started?
Oh, okay. What the fuck? So this is tangibly related, well, very much related to the show we'll be reviewing today. So I was like, and when we were watching, because me and Cassie, we were really behind on the ball, and we finished the show literally like an hour ago. And so during the final like few episodes, they really like hammer in like, oh, the importance of this virtual world and what it means to all of us, and we spent so much time here, and some people can only be themselves in this virtual space, that sort of thing. They really like hammer that in. And so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a neat like theme that they have going on here towards the end. And so I was like, okay, we could talk about, how we personally have, interacted with our own virtual spaces over time, and, how it's affected us in the real world and stuff like that. I thought it would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So get us started then. How have you interacted with virtual spaces, and how has it leaked into your personal life?
I have been on like online forums and communities since basically middle school. I jumped around through a variety of like video game related forums. Back in the day, there was the Nintendo had their own official like forums way back in the day, and I was fairly active on those. And then Nintendo took those down, and then I was on the Tales series forum for like 10 years, basically, like in a decade.
What a nerd.
I know. Actually, not really like a decade. It was more like 7 years, because it ended in like 2013, and I was not there in 2003. But I mean, I was getting there, and that basically ruled my life for basically like all of high school and a little bit of college. And I made a lot of friends there, and I haven't really found a community quite like that since. And it really played a large part in how I developed as a person, and because of all the people I was interacting with, and for better or worse. I don't really want to act like everything that transpired there made me a better person, but that's what happens with, getting involved with communities and everything. So, and then after that, I also played, this is a little bit more relevant to the show, I played Final Fantasy XIV for quite a while. I think I have something like over 1,000 hours that I played that game. I haven't played it in like a year, but I played that game for a really long time and got mildly involved in what was going on there. But I was always kind of a lone wolf. Didn't really have like a really big set community that I was a part of, probably because I was still recoiling from the fact that I had lost basically the last big like internet community that I was involved in. But after watching this show, I've been kind of like going back and thinking like, oh, maybe I should try and get involved in something like that again. Maybe I should go back to Final Fantasy XIV and play
Maybe
that.
you should.
And completely ignore Cassie for
That's okay.
months on end.
Sometimes I edit AMVs for hours on end and ignore you, which is an online community that me and John could talk about for a bit.
It can be a community we can talk about for a bit.
Yeah, so I've been in the AMV community, I think since 2005, 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't left. And if anything, in the last decade, I've gotten even more involved with animemusicvideos.org, and then that moved over to AMV Central, kind of bounced back and forth between those two. The AMV community has kind of branched off into these weird sectors almost, but you can be a part of any of them, which is kind of cool. You can kind of just jump around. You've got AMV, what are they called? Studios that are kind of like their own little lunch tables that have their own little special intro, so you can feel like you're the cool kids when really we're just a bunch of nerds editing a bunch of clips from AMV or from anime into music videos. It's fun. And it's created a lot of tension as well as friendships. It's pretty cool. It's bled into my personal life as well. A lot of the people who are my best friends to this day are AMV editors. And I would not have met most of the people. I wouldn't actually have met you if it weren't for AMV editing. Think about that for a minute.
I mean, yeah.
So even though Dominic is not an editor themselves, the only reason I met Dominic was because I knew Zach. The only reason I knew Zach was because I knew Peter. The only reason I knew Peter was because I did AMV editing.
Shoutouts to AMVs, I think.
I have a similar sort of rabbit hole of connections. Like, I poked around in some communities, like, probably the most involved I got in any virtual communities before I got into the A&B community was probably playing Final Fantasy XI. I got invited to what was called Link Shell in that game.
Played a lot of it.
And I had fun with that in there. I also had someone randomly propose to me in one of the game's MMOs I played at one point.
Oh, congratulations! How's
proceeded
the wife
to
and kids?
freak me the fuck out because it was a guy that proposed to me because I was a female character, and I was like, yeah, bye, and looked out and kind of avoided it for a while.
I used to get hit on all the time.
Yeah, that happened a few times.
Why.
What?
I can't imagine why.
Oh, I mean, me neither.
I'm making a joke saying that you are great, and why wouldn't people fall in love with you on the internet and in real life?
I mean, they didn't talk to me or anything. It's just they saw my character, and then they would come up and make very extreme sexual comments about me.
Okay, that's a little more creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I started going to Tokonatsu, and I then started interacting on the forum for Tokonatsu there, and then I found out, oh, there's someone else that goes to Tokonatsu that edits AMVs, because that was something I was just doing on the side by myself, not really talking to anyone about, just doing. I did have an account on the AMV.org, or animemusicvideos.org rather, and had uploaded things, but I hadn't actually talked on the forum there for ever. But that's how I end up getting through the Tokunatsu forum. That's how I end up getting in contact with Sakura's Light, another editor who hasn't been as active lately, due to his job. But he led me to meeting another editor called Chaos God. Well, that's his online. That's their online names anyway. And that led to us, the three of us, forming a studio ourselves. And then I believe it was Chaos that threw Cassie here into our little Skype chat corner of the internet.
Remember when Skype was a thing?
Because, back when Skype was a thing.
I mean, it's still a thing, but remember when it was a thing?
Yeah.
And, that's how Cassie and I met, and, it was Sack that got me more involved in the, AMV editing community.
I think what's cool about that is that the reach of the internet is just so large that it can really impact so many parts of how you interact, not just with people who live near you, but across the entire world, which is kind of cool. I don't know if we've all really talked too much about how it has impacted necessarily, like, our priorities. I think that was another thing you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Mainly because, like, in the show or whatever that we will eventually be talking about. Soon. They mention how, it's become a place where they can be themselves, and so they don't want to lose this virtual world because it allows them to be their real selves, and also it's impacted them in ways that they couldn't quite get, I guess, in the real world, essentially. And I feel like some people, especially like our generation, have, a lot of similar experiences with that, even if you're not like super nerdy, like, oh, I've been, hanging out on anime or video game forums for so long. I mean, I think even with the advent of social media and stuff like that, I think a lot of us are very much impacted and very tied into this virtual spaces. There are these virtual spaces that we have, and for me personally, like, it's allowed me to be a lot more honest and true to myself in terms of, like, my interests and how I express myself, especially more recently. So I think that's really cool. And I kind of really like that. That's one of the main things I really liked about what the show was getting at. Is, you have all these people, and they have all these avatars and stuff, and they vary on appearance and stuff. And I like, kind of like that sort of avatar idea where we have these avatars that may not express how we really look, but they express, they're like still an expression of our own self to other people. So that was just another thing that popped into my head when I was thinking about a topic.
John?
That was one thought I had about the series, like, seeing their avatars and comparing them to their real lives, and some of them, like, okay, it's just your real self.
Yeah.
Just in a cool outfit, fair enough. And then others is like, that is a wolf man.
Yeah. It's like how some people have their basic, like, their actual picture as, like, their profile picture, and then some people it's like, oh, something completely different, like a character, or, their own, like, fan-made thing, or something like that. I thought that was cool.
I can also get the idea of, like, feeling like you can only truly be true to yourself in some way or another, or, like, it giving you a odd freedom that you don't really have in real life. I can get that idea. May not have super experienced it myself, in the way that the series and I myself was just implying, but like, especially with like MMO virtual reality games, you can like not necessarily MMO virtual realities, but like, you know what I mean, MMORPGs where you have your character that you create, and it can be anything. Yeah, running around as this tiny creature that can carry a giant sword in Final Fantasy 14 or 11, or playing as a cat girl, or like whatever other races there are in like any other MMO, like turning into a cow that can turn into a tree in World of Warcraft. Those are like literal, hey, I'm being something that's not me, and that's fun to explore. But there's also like, if someone's like transgender but don't feel comfortable, like don't feel safe transitioning, they can at least be themselves online in this online space.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like, if someone is bedridden, they can still interact with people outside of people in the room that they're physically trapped in.
Yeah. I think that's like something that's like slightly kind of implied in the show too.
Yeah, that was definitely implied in one of the characters.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish they had explored it more.
Yeah, we were saying the same thing.
That's for later.
Yeah.
But that very thought and concept, like kicking myself for not coming up with it myself. I was sitting here like, topic for today. And then, of course, you must have come up with that suggestion and brought it up to Cassie, and Cassie threw it at me. I was like, you know what, that's better than anything I was getting, because I was coming up with nothing. So let's go for it.
You've been oddly quiet.
I just don't think I have as much to really contribute. Because I never really got involved with online video games. I mean, I've gotten involved in online communities, and they have impacted the friends and more than friends relationships that I've had. But other than that, there's not much more for me to say, I guess. I agree with everything you guys are saying, but I've never really, outside of the AMV community, I don't think I've really ever been part of a large community.
Okay.
To be honest, I think I messed around on some message boards, but I never got truly as invested as maybe you and John have.
That's fair.
Indeed. But yeah, with the whole thought of like how it might take priority, like there have been a number of times where I've been at work or like other social obligations, like even Christmas meals, where I've like at some point ended up being like, I wish I was at home at my computer chatting with my friends over the internet.
I can get that.
Yeah, or like there would be times where I'm at work or where I'm at school and like something happens, you know, like with, you know, online with friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I'm at school and maybe I should be studying and working on my future, but this shit just went down in this Skype chat and I gotta pay attention to that instead, you know, stuff like that.
I've definitely had that, like, I found out about something something started going down, but I had to leave for work, and I'm, like, spending the entire time, like, are they okay? Are they okay? Are they okay? Are they okay?
Yeah.
It's my break. Can I check up on them? Are they okay? Are they okay?
I think that also in that realm, now that you mention it, it's just, like, I feel that I have more fun in a virtual space sometimes than I do necessarily going out and doing things that I don't have enough high energy to do.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I love going out and hanging out with my friends and playing board games like I did last night. But that was really draining. Whereas if I had been at home, I probably could have stayed in a group voice call until like 3 a.m.
Yeah, she could have been sitting here for the entire day.
It's just, I think that there's that also, like, I don't know, there's something about going out and being with people in person where you almost have to put on airs even with your close friends.
Yeah.
where that doesn't seem to be as much of a issue for me when I'm online. I'm not entirely sure why that is, and that could be a completely different study into my psyche for a different time, I guess, but yeah, it's pretty interesting to think about.
Something I caught myself doing when I was paying you a visit, I think I was a bit more quiet and timid, or at least with my first meeting with everyone compared to how I am in real life, or how I am online with all of yous.
Mhm.
This ended up being a deeper topic than I realized it was going to be.
I don't know why I'm even laughing.
Yeah, this is my handiwork, alright?
I just wanted to do that with you. I just wanted to feel like I was part of a community.
Oh.
But yeah, so, there's probably a lot more to unpack with this topic than we really have time for.
But hey, send us your experiences online. Tell us about them. We're interested. We're a bunch of losers that are sitting on the internet all the time. Send us some email.
Hey, yeah, like, what are your thoughts on it? How have you been impacted by virtual reality or virtual spaces? I keep saying virtual reality, but virtual spaces.
I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get there in the next decade.
Maybe.
I mean, there is virtual reality chat. That is a thing.
Yeah, VR chat. That is a thing. And, like, it's...
But is that widely available? Don't you need, like, a...
I mean, you need, like a headset.
Well, that's what I'm
those
saying.
Those are pretty expensive.
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe 10 years from now, it'll be more, readily acceptable. Kind of like... not acceptable, accessible. Kind of like how a million years ago, not everybody had a smartphone. And now everybody has a smartphone.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe a decade from now, all of us will be wearing virtual reality helmets and meeting in virtual spaces to talk to each other. And then nobody will ever leave their houses. It'll be great.
Great, yeah.
It'd be like Ready Player One.
Oh, no.
No,
Oh, no.
Only maybe better, or...
That is not the future
worse.
I asked for.
Anywho, you know what's not Ready Player One, but also involves virtual reality?
Literally everything else.
The anime we're going to be talking about today that inspired this topic. What anime are we talking about? It's Gundam Build Divers. Divers, not fighters.
Divers.
They're diving into the virtual world with their plastic toys.
So yeah. Studio. I wonder which one. Sunrise. Because it's Gundam. So of course it is. What have they done? Other than Gundam and Love Live. They've done Inuyasha, Tiger and Bunny, and Daily Lives of High School Boys.
Good shit.
The synopsis goes... Gunpla Battle Nexus Online, or GBN, is a new network game that lets people enjoy a variety of missions using Gunpla in virtual cyberspace dimension. Middle school students Riku Mikami and Yukio Hidaka recruit their classmate Momoka Yashiro and dive together into this vast world, becoming divers, or inhabitants of GBN. They meet a mysterious girl named Sarah who has an amazing sensitivity to Gunpla. They begin playing alongside her, but... Through many encounters and experiences, Riku and his friends will build not only Gunpla, but their own adventures as well. So they use the term Gunpla a lot in this, but it's Gundam Plastic Model. Or Gundam Plamo, and Plamo is plastic model. So it's the model kits that you put together, and then they get scanned into this virtual world, and then they are full scale as they pilot them inside this virtual world, virtual reality, MMORPG kind of thing. So yeah.
So yeah.
What are people's thoughts on the story?
I guess I'll go first.
Go.
Yeah. The story was fairly I remember me and Cassie always talking about this. We're like, yeah, we kind of like the first half more. And I feel like that's because, like, the first half just kind of starts you off with, the kids logging into this game, figuring out how to play, getting a little bit better, little by little. There's also this little thing in the background that's going wrong, it's causing trouble. But you're, like, kind of seeing these kids, like, gradually get more and more used to this game and what's going on.
It was all fresh, new, and exciting.
Yeah, and I feel like that was sort of conveyed pretty decently.
That was part of the charm at the start, like, just how, like, wow, this place is amazing, and, like, learning how the world works.
There was that little bit of wonder and excitement, which I totally get, because I think when I first played Final Fantasy XIV, I had that very same kind of feeling where, like, everything was new. It was the first MMO I ever played. So everything was, like, new and exciting to me, and we were doing things really wrong. We had a team of, like, 3 monks going into a dungeon, which is really bad, and you should not do that. But we did it anyways. And everything, and we, we were failing at things, and we were discovering things, and there was no one there to really help us that much. But it was fun, and it was kind of exciting. And I feel like the first half of the show kind of really gets that, that feeling down.
Yeah, like, I've got a similar memory of, like, first time playing Final Fantasy XI, when I was first playing it on my own, like, running out of the city I chose to start at, fighting these rabbit monster things, and getting my ass handed to me by these rabbit monster things.
Yeah.
Like, getting killed by, like, the starting monster. And then coming, like, chasing it several times down, and then, like, first time actually in a party, I was playing as a healer, and panicked, used what was called referred to as the 2-hour ability of that character class, Benediction, and watched as the monster that was fighting just, like, suddenly ignored everyone else in the party. I was like, you, white mage, you die now. And that was it. And got told off for that mistake. But still having fun with it, and still being wide-eyed and amazed by it all.
And I think that's something that everybody can relate to, as opposed to just people who like Gundam. And I think that that's what's really cool and important about that. And it's something that the original Gundam Build Gundam Build Fighters did really well. I'm going to mix both of those up so many times. Yeah. Anyway, Gundam Build Fighters, and I loved Gundam Build Fighters. It's I wouldn't say one of my favorite animes, but it's definitely my favorite Gundam show. It's the only one I've ever gotten invested in. Aw, yeah. But there's this thing that's very impressive for a show that's very catered to a specific group of people or a specific community, being able to draw another community in, or people who can identify with, that sense of wonder of either entering an online game for the first time or just encountering something new. And I think that the first half of the story did that very well. Also, another thing that I think that the first half did a hell of a lot better than the second half is building tension and establishing specific themes that it wanted to talk about and discuss with the audience, which is saying a lot for a show because for the most part, I don't think that the show wants itself to be taken too seriously, but it also wants to make you think at the same time. For example, there's this very interesting theme in the first half that I thought was really cool, where they talked about the difference between playing online and playing offline and how the people who enjoyed the offline modes were kind of, pissed off about these new online modes that took away the magic of what, fighting with Gunpla is like. And that brought up a very interesting twist in the first half that, while I don't think was executed perfectly, was way better than the tension that they necessarily built up in the second half. I think the second half had a nice payoff, but I think that a lot of the build up to it was, I don't know, it paled in comparison to the first half of the show. There's a lot of filler in a 25 episode show, and I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, that was basically what I was going to lead up to saying, is that the second half, I enjoyed the last few episodes, and I enjoyed what they did with the overall, message and theme and everything. But the lead up to it felt much weaker than the first half, and there wasn't that same, I feel like both shows kind of have this same, because they're separated into two kind of problems or arcs, I guess. You have the break to calls in the first half of the show, and then the second half deals with a certain character, or at least leads up into dealing with that certain character. Not all the episodes in the second half deal with her, but it's there's the first half is this gradual build up to the crisis of the break to calls or whatever, and then the second half jumps to a new problem, but it doesn't start that right away, and so you just kind of have this part where the show's just kind of meandering for a bit and doesn't really do a whole lot or introduce a problem or build upon what the first half was doing. So it just kind of sits there for a bit, and then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, here's this problem, we gotta do something about it.
And they could have spent that time building up characters that were in the main cast. Because here's the thing. Another thing that I really liked about the first half of the show is they focused on a couple of characters. Riku, of course, being the main one. And then there's a little arc for Ayame as well. And they spent a lot of time giving her some, development and intrigue. And then the whole rest of the Build Divers crew is basically just completely forgotten about. Except for an episode with Yuki later on, but even that wasn't very much.
Yeah, Koichi got a small bit in the first half. Yuki got that one episode in the second half. Momoka got nothing.
Momoka got literally nothing, and that really frustrated me. And it's just, there's no reason in a 25 episode show where you can't build up 4 or 5 characters. There's no reason that shouldn't have happened. I just don't understand. Instead of having an episode where a bunch of girls run in a race for no fucking reason, maybe you should have built up the fucking characterization of your characters. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit bitter.
Yeah, I definitely wish that whole thing with Yuki was handled a bit better and went on for not saying what they did was bad, but they could have done more with it, and would have been better if it lasted a bit longer. But then it was but then there's this other issue going on, and now we have to kind of shelve this, and it's all good now.
Yeah, the thing that kind of annoyed me the most about Yuki's thing is that you have that episode, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna customize my gunpla again. I'm gonna make it better. And then you kind of see him, and he's looking at the box of the Gundam X, and it's oh, okay, cool. And then the way they reveal his new Gunpla is it just kind of pops up in the last couple of episodes, and it's hey.
Yeah, they tease it in the intro so much.
Yeah.
And then it's there for one episode.
Yeah, it's there for a little bit. It gets to do its satellite cannon, and then it's okay, that's it.
That's it. That's all you get.
You don't even get a name for it or anything, I don't think. Or if you do, it's just, I don't know, it just felt very
just a blast master.
Yeah.
I only know that because I actually have been eyeing the kit to buy it.
Yeah.
So
but they don't say it in the show, I don't believe.
They might. Oh yeah.
They might.
They
but
might
if they do,
they might. Yeah, it's just the way they introduce it is just very oh yeah, I forget. Because it takes such a long time between that episode, between when you finally actually see his new Gunpla, that there's oh, oh, right, yeah, he made a new one. And I don't know. It just felt very awkward to me.
There's also another thing, I'll probably discuss this when we get into spoilers, but they also introduce some characters in the later half, which they don't do anything with. Specifically, like one of the shopkeepers who's always been there shows up for the one episode I keep referring to that I detested, and then she's never used again, even though she is also in the opening. And it's just frustrating because they have all of these like little elements that they sprinkle around and they think, yeah, we'll just show it to you. You're not going to remember. We're going to go up to a large scale battle. It's not like you're going to care. And I'm like, but I do. I care very much, actually. Could you go back to those things that I was actually enjoying? Okay, thanks. Could you do that?
Yeah. Like...
Just going back, I just want to mention this real quick. Going back to Cassie not liking a specific episode. I remember after we watched it, she just sat there and she was like, I'm going to bring this up on the podcast, you know.
I'm not even going to talk about what I want to talk about with that because it's a whole other topic in and of itself, but I found that entire episode extremely sexist. And I hate shit like that. And it happens in anime all the time, especially anime that's targeted toward a specific audience. They have an episode where they try and show off all the girls because they can, and then they have them compete in a stupid way. And the biggest, okay, I'm going to have my one little soapbox moment. Why is it that the girls never, outside of Ayame once, but it still cuts away from her for doing whatever she's doing, why don't any of the girls in the show get a really cool kick-ass episode?
That's true.
None of them do.
That's true.
Even with Ayame, it's like she became a decoy so that Riku could go on and do his thing.
That's true.
Why didn't...
I feel like she had an epic moment during that, but still, it was like, oh, I'm going to be the one so you can go and deal with it. Even...
Like, plenty of the guys, like, especially Riku, but he's the main character, so whatever. I mean, even Sada, who's supposed to be made out to be, like, this big deal, like, all she ever really does is stand around and look cute.
She becomes a damsel in distress.
She just becomes a damsel, and I understand that female empowerment is not going to be something that's in every freaking show, but you have a vast female cast. Use them. I don't know, it just frustrated me. It's a personal thing, and I think it's a huge problem in anime in general, especially targeted toward a specific audience, and I get that. But there's no reason to have these characters there if you're not going to use them, like, just...
Yeah, Build Fighters...
Build Fighters even did that.
Was a lot better on that, yeah.
Like, there were plenty of girls who had kick-ass moments. And at least were characters. Mirror.
Also, with that one episode that you was talking about, there was the whole start of that thing made me roll my eyes so badly because it all stemmed from a misunderstanding about her earrings.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the and that, honestly, that whole situation rubbed me the wrong way too, because it was like, oh, cute things don't look good on you. Here, I'm gonna get you these things because this is the image I think looks best on you.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of problems with that whole interaction, but we're not gonna go into that at this time, because then that's all this podcast is gonna turn into. I could write a thesis paper on that one interaction, all of the reasons why it's very wrong, and a representation of everything that's wrong in today's society, and in a lot of anime shows and media. We're not gonna do that right now. But yeah, I agree, that whole situation just infuriated me even more. I wasn't gonna do this, honey. And then you just...
I know, I had to open that can of worms. I
was being so good. I was not good.
I mean, I've been listening to your early episodes where you do this, like, all the time, and I'm just like...
I'm trying to get...
I'm
trying to get better.
I have to unleash the beast.
I'm trying to be better. I'm trying not to be angry. But yeah.
Release the anger.
But
Release your hate.
But I think we're all basically in consensus on the story, being the first half is pretty strong. We enjoyed it a lot. And then the second half, while it had some pretty enjoyable moments, was not as strong as the first.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I liked how, like, not to get into super spoilers about it, but, like, how the solution sort of tied in to the first arc a bit.
Yeah, that was kind of neat.
That was neat. I liked that. But there were a number of leaps of logic that happened along the way. It's like, okay, so this is happening. Oh, okay. It definitely, the second half definitely wasn't as strong as the first half. I still personally really enjoyed it, but yeah, definitely not as strong. Wish we had gotten more about certain other characters along the way, but yeah, we might as well carry on into characters then. So yeah, who are your favorite characters?
I liked Momoka. She was cute. She had a lot of funny faces. I wish she had actually gotten like development or like some sort of like legitimate like character growth, but I mean, we can't all win.
She had one of the funniest moments in the entire show.
She did. She had, that's why I liked her. She had a lot of like really cute and funny moments. She was kind of like the life of the party. So I like that about her.
Her design's really cute.
Yeah.
Her design was really cute. I was like going into this series and seeing all of the like promo material and the fact that like right out the gate for the model kit side of it, the like initial run of kits were Riku's Gundam, Yuki's Gunpla, Momo's Gunpla, the Haropla, which included Momo Haro, which is a pink one with cat ears because that's how she spent the first time she dove into the game.
Yeah.
And a petite Kara guy of Momo. And it's like, okay, so Momo's the mascot of the series. So she's kind of going to be filling the mascot character role of the series. And I was prepared for her to be my favorite character in the series. And, like, she had a really cute design. And, like, yeah, you got everything going for her. And then she was just sort of there. She was cute, she was funny, she had a lot of funny moments, but, like, they didn't do anything with her as a character beyond that.
Yeah. I mean, she's, like, my favorite, mainly because I wasn't too invested in any of the other characters. Like, the other characters, like, a lot of other characters got development and were much more fleshed out, but I didn't really care. So I was a lot more invested in just the kind of cute, fun character that didn't get anything, but I wish she did, because then maybe I would have cared. But everyone else, I was just like, oh yeah. And I think that's one of the big trappings of Build Divers versus its original predecessor. We don't talk about that other thing.
The thing that came between.
Yeah, we don't talk about that one, but the original is that, like, I cared a lot about what most of the characters in the original Build Fighters were fighting for, and their motivations, and when they clashed, and you had these two characters who were genuinely, like, trying to fight for what they believed in, and, you know, place well or whatever, you could feel it. With Build Divers, I didn't have that kind of
investment.
No, yeah, I was not nearly as invested.
You know, I can get that as well. Like, like, when we're talking about, oh, you have to pick a favorite character, I picked Magi because, again, not somebody who got really any development, but who made me laugh and who I enjoyed on screen. And that's what it came down to. I did enjoy some other characters, like Ayame. I felt something for her. But it never, almost all of these characters, it never went above surface level for me, for getting invested in what happened to them. And I think that's another reason why the second half of the show failed for me so hard, is because I didn't have as much investment in the character that was in peril.
Yeah.
I had a hard time caring, especially when, you know, an entire, like, block of episodes was dedicated to that character, when I had a hard time investing in the characters in the show to begin with. And that was kind of rough for me because I already was kind of teetering on the story towards the end. So it's very hard for me to really say that I liked the characters in this show, but I can definitely say I didn't dislike them. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree.
I wasn't like, wow, these are all terrible characters. It was just more like, well, they're serviceable for the show they're in. They're there. They have a personality, sort of. I just couldn't get invested, which sucks because they had plenty of time to get me invested. And they just didn't.
And again, there were hints about things going on with Maggie that I was like, can we go into these things that you're hinting at so fucking vaguely? I suppose with Maggie, that was...
I wanted to see him be a mentor more often. I want to see his early days. Like, there's some hints with, like, Tiger and him.
Yeah, they, like,
and others.
briefly mentioned
hints with
some
Tiger...
stuff. Rommel? Yeah, it's
Rommel?
Rommel.
Something like that.
Yeah. Rommel, yeah.
Yeah, Rommel.
Yeah, and so there's so much stuff that they, like, scatter, like, oh, yeah, this was an important person, but, yeah, like, he's so fun. I would have liked to see him on screen more. Him and his gigantic ass.
Yeah, that Gluteus Maximus.
He was fun.
He was good. I liked Maggie.
He was fun. He was so very himself as well.
Yeah.
Like, he had no filter. I loved him.
And I want his Gunpla.
His Gunpla's very cool looking. The scythe was really neat. Like, I'm not somebody who's super into Gunpla, but I think his, and then, oh god, I can't remember his name. The pretty boy guy who likes to build things and is always fighting with Tiger.
I can't pronounce, yeah.
Yeah, him. I liked his Gunpla too. The big light blue one.
Yeah, now I know what to buy if I want to get Cassie into Gunpla.
Shaharia.
Yeah, I liked their Gunplas a lot, which I don't really tend to care much for Gundam, so that says something, I suppose. I just liked the light blue, and I also liked Maggie's had a gigantic pink scythe. It was just so him.
It was very him, yeah.
And I liked that. But John, what did you have to say about the characters? Who was your favorite, and how'd you feel about him overall?
My favorite is definitely Ayame. Call me a sucker for dark, mysterious types that start off on the wrong side and become good characters, I guess, like, minus spoiler there. But I say minus spoiler, they kind of wasn't hiding the fact that she had ulterior motives from the beginning.
Nah.
But yeah, like, when it got into her conflict, I was tearing up, but I really super got invested in this series. Probably more than it might deserve. But yeah, like, of all the characters, the one that I latched onto the most was definitely Ayame. And not just for her design, like, her design did play into it, I'm not gonna lie. Her backstory, I love the moments where, like, her facade slipped and, like, she saw something cute and was still trying to act all tough and tough and serious, but really she was like, I want to hug the cute bear. I loved it when she had those moments. And then I kicked myself when there was the reveal about her Gundam, her Gunpla. Like, I knew it was an SD that was gonna have a real type mode. I knew that from the moment I saw the bloody bird thing flying around. But then I didn't realize what the basis of that Gunpla was. And I kicked myself for not realizing until she used a certain key feature that comes along with that Gundam. That people who aren't fans of Gundam won't realize and won't recognize, but I am a fan of Gundam and Gunpla, and I should have realized, so I was kicking myself for it. But yeah, I loved it, and I wish she hadn't got shoved to the side after her arc ended as well, because it felt like that happened a bit with her as well in the second half.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, you've had your time in the spotlight. Let's have a moment for all the other characters.
Except for
we're
not.
actually going to have a moment for all the other characters. Say for an episode for Yuki. But yeah, I can't think of any characters that I was like, oh, fuck this guy. Why is he on the screen? Like,
there weren't really any.
Even the main villain from the first series, first half of the series anyway, when they reappeared, it was like, you're back!
Yeah. It's like a little redemption kind of thing. It was nice.
Yeah.
I feel like overall the characters, while not terrible, they're just not very strong.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. They just kind of fall a bit short in general, which is a shame. Especially with Build Fighters, the original series, to compare to.
Because I think one of the biggest appeals of Build Fighters is that the story is... It's solid, but it's also just not the most incredible thing in the world. It's basically one big tournament arc. It's nothing fancy. It has a little bit of an otherworldly element to it. Eventually, please go see our earlier review on Gundam Build Fighters, which we will link in the description. But to know how we really feel about that earlier series. But the characters were just so fun that it didn't matter. I think that's another element that I thought that I enjoyed more in Gundam Build Fighters than I did Divers, is that Build Fighters, they had this kind of attitude of, we're taking this seriously because it shouldn't be taken seriously. We're having so much fun, and we know we're being stupid, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
And that's why we're taking it so serious. Like, I think they blatantly say that at some point in the show.
Gunpla Mafia.
Yeah, like, they don't give two shits. Whereas I feel like in Gundam Build Divers, it's like, they sometimes take themselves too seriously. And it falls flat on its face, both with the characters and with the story.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else to say on characters, or should we just move on into production?
I don't really have a whole lot
I don't think there's anything else to say about characters. So yeah,
Production
levels.
I think the production in this show is a mixed bag, because when they dumped all of their budget into the Gunpla fights, like, even I was having fun. It was cool. I think there was a point today at some point where Dominic looked at me and was like, Cassie, our robot's just cool. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, they're cool.
I'm glad she admitted to that.
Yeah, they could be cool.
I was worried for I don't really get it.
I mean, I have a hard time really investing myself fully. I'm not going to admit to being a convert or anything.
I'm just saying.
But it's
I'm just
cool.
saying every other time where I like, oh man, look at the cool robots. Cassie's just like,
that's not true. I like the cool robots in SSS Gridman. I loved the cool robots in the original Gundam Build Fighters. It's just when they're actually engaged in battle, I think it's cool. But if you just show me a picture of a Gundam and you're like, Cassie, isn't this robot cool? I'm like, yeah, that sure looks like a robot. But that's a different story for a different day. Anyway, point I was getting to is they dumped a lot of their time and effort into the fights, which is fine. They kind of needed to, but the show itself, the characters looked really weird sometimes, especially Sada. Sometimes her head was way too big for her body. It was weird.
Yeah, I didn't particularly take too much notice of that. There were some weird moments, some drops in the quality, like especially like when they were just, walking around talking. There were also some weird parts during some fights.
Yeah.
But I mean that's to be
expected.
Yeah, it's to be expected in a like a 2-core show. I'm not really gonna be too anal about that. I think when they really wanted to like show their stuff, and they did basically. I want to bring attention to the director. The director of the show is Masami Obari, who has quite a bit of pedigree in, like, when it comes to mech anime. He got started back in the 80s with a variety of shows like Dragonar and Dangaio, and he was one of the key contributors to like a lot of really famous like cool robot poses that tend to get recycled a lot these days. Working on the early Brave shows back in the 90s. So, and he directed some other stuff, some of which isn't very good, some of which is pretty decent. He also did some porn. You know, he's a very kind of prolific and well-respected guy among like mech anime fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that a lot of his signature like style and personality really bled through with a lot of the robot action, and that was something that I was always very pleased to see.
Especially the little build-up poses.
Yeah, like a lot of the posing and stuff, you know, all that kind of thing, like, that's my shit. So, I was always excited to see that kind of thing. I don't know, I don't think a lot of people are super conscious of that sort of thing, but for me, personally, it was something that, at the very least, even if there were other parts of the show that weren't delivering, that part always delivered. So,
yeah, you can't deny a very well put together like iconic pose, even if it is just standing on top of a alien spaceship with your arms crossed.
Yeah,
something about a strong iconic pose just grabs your eye, and there were a number of moments in this series where like a Gundam, someone in a Gundam would strike a pose, and you're like, that looks cool. Maybe they didn't all stick around long enough for me to really register them.
The show had style.
The show definitely had style.
Yeah.
Especially in its, like, robot fights. It's Gundam fights. I think that, like, as I was getting to earlier, like, with the heads being too big sometimes, it seems like the only times where I really noticed that things tended to go down as in quality wasn't with the robots, it was more with the characters interacting with each other, which was fine. Most of the time it was, like, in low-impact scenes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was noticeable to me enough that I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. But it wasn't offensive or anything. It's just, it was what it was.
It happened.
It happens.
Yeah.
And here's a little toss-out for Cami. The first OP slaps.
Yeah, I was like, music-wise, I loved the first intro.
The second one, not so much. Second one's a lot more generic, and like I remember when we were watching the first part of the show. Every time, like you get to that one part of the show, they're like, "Oh, well," me and Cassie would always like do that as it was going along.
I started getting really into singing the song at the beginning of each episode, and then like the second half of the show, I still let the opening play because I was too lazy to skip it, but I just get on my phone or do something else while it was playing, because it just wasn't as engaging. They also recycled a lot of the footage from the first opening.
Yeah, they did.
They had some new stuff in there, but they recycled a lot. And it just wasn't as engaging or fun or slaps. It doesn't slap! It doesn't slap!
I still stand by my statement that the first intro is one of my favorite intros from the season.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and listen to some, but it's definitely up there. I don't know if it's one of my favorite of the entire year, but it definitely stood out in its season. It was fun. I got pumped. She
really liked it.
I liked it a lot.
But yeah, the moment that came on, I was like, yeah!
The rest of the music in the show was actually kind of nice too, which is cool for me, because I don't really tend to care much about music. I think that playing Nier recently made me start listening to music more. It's weird. It's real weird. But yeah, like I remember at one point in like a scene earlier today, I was like, I kind of like the music in this show.
The music wasn't, I think, the music in Build Fighters was like a lot better.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music in Build Fighters is like phenomenal, but the music here is definitely pretty serviceable, and I think it worked well in certain scenes. It's just not, I don't think it's something that I'll go back to and like listen on my own.
Yeah.
Whereas I've downloaded the Build Fighter soundtrack and would listen to that often.
Build Fighter soundtrack is so cool. It's got so much different style and flair to it too. Like there's so many different kind of genres in there.
Yeah.
But
slight off topic, but at Komoricon, Dom and I went to a Gunpla building panel.
We did, yeah.
And at one point they were playing the Build Fighters.
They were, yeah.
Soundtrack.
They were also playing the first opening to Build Divers.
That's how we first noticed it. They started off with the first opening,
yeah.
And they just carried on with the soundtrack.
Yeah,
like, this is cool. We're enjoying this.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
See what you did there.
But yeah, I don't know what else. Because I'm not familiar with any of the staff on this show, and I don't think anything particularly outside of some of the really flashy fight scenes stood out to me as much, but it was serviceable most of the rest of the time. I can't think of outside sometimes people's heads being too big, any like huge detriments either. It's just it's serviceable, all right. It's a nicely made package. There's
definitely a focus on the robots. Like that's like the main.
As it should be, really.
Yeah, so that's where they put like a lot of their focus into. So sometimes it looks a little wonky elsewhere, but I don't really think it's particularly distracting outside of maybe some scattered moments here and there.
I just can't get over the big head sometimes. But that was just me.
Yeah.
Also, Maggie's butt was beautifully drawn. Always.
Yeah, they did a very good job at making sure that his ass was always accentuated in every scene that you could possibly see it. And any angle that his ass might show up, it was always very well rounded and just constantly protruding out.
I still don't know how I didn't notice it.
I think I was the first. Did I notice it?
I think you noticed it, and then I noticed a couple seconds later, and then we almost said it at the same time. But you definitely noticed it first.
Yeah, I noticed first, and it wasn't like immediately. It wasn't like the first time you see him. It was like a few episodes later. I was like, holy shit, Maggie's ass is fucking, he is packing.
It turned into like the Where's Waldo of the anime, like where's his ass? Like let's try and find it.
And after you notice it, you can't
unnotice. Like in every scene that he's in becomes, wonder if we're gonna get a nice ass shot today. Like, where's that booty at?
Somebody on the production staff literally had to sit down and make that decision. Yeah. Like, they said, let's somebody actually said that during a meeting.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, God, I wish I could have
his ass always has to be, like, he has to have the perfect ass in every shot. Like, we can't compromise on this. Sometimes the characters can have big heads, but Maggie's ass always has to be perfect. That was the ultimatum they made when making the show.
Some people are going to have too much weird off-model moments, but hey, that budget's worth it for his ass.
Yeah, someone definitely had way too much fun in production with him.
Should we move on to ratings?
Sure, let's move on to ratings.
Especially because we'll probably have a decent spoiler room.
Yeah, since this was something I passed,
you get to go first.
I go last.
Okay, I go first.
Yep, you go first.
Okay, you're gonna have to remind me what the ratings are again.
Okay, so for those of you honey, you're on enough episodes that you need to learn.
And I've listened to enough that I should know.
You listen to it at work all the time. Okay, so we have a system that's based on if it's the worst thing you've ever seen, you burn it. If it's not the worst thing you've ever seen, but it's still pretty bad, skip it. If it's middle of the road, it's a check it.
Check it, then like it.
Then like it, then love it.
Okay, alright, yeah. I think it was the one after burn it I was forgetting.
Skip it.
Yeah, I was forgetting skip it. Okay, I got it.
Bop it. Skip it.
Skip it.
Twist it.
Anyways. If I'm gonna rate it, I would give it... I was struggling, like, if you had asked me yesterday, it would have been a check it. I think a lot of the ending bits catered very specifically to me personally. Not just in the robot fights and the overall like action, but also in like the theming. Because I mean, like I said, I came up with the main topic today because they were like, oh, you know, we love this virtual world so much, and it's provided us, you know, so many ways to express ourselves and be ourselves, you know, that sort of thing. So that was like kind of hitting me close to home. And then they had all the talks about friendship as they all combine their powers and stuff at the end. And I was like, okay, I like this show. So I give it a like it.
Alternate anime recommendation?
If I had to give... This was a little bit hard. I said my alternate anime recommendation is The King of Braves, GaoGaiGar. Primarily because I think it also has a lot of those same kind of cool robot moments that make you kind of sit in your chair and go, yeah! And it, you know, like I said, it's a Braves show, so it kind of has a lot of the same, the action at the very least has a lot of the same sort of feeling and I guess upbringing that a lot of the action in this show also has. And I think anyone that enjoyed the robot fights in this show would also enjoy the robot fights in GaoGaiGar. So that was mainly why I recommend that show.
Nice. I guess I get to go next.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this sucks.
Dun dun dun.
I think that I'm kind of in the same boat where I kind of was teetering between two ratings, as it were. Even on my Kitsu, I've gone back and forth between two ratings all morning. I keep changing it. This is the third time I've changed it, and
really?
I changed it while we were freaking talking.
Oh.
I keep thinking of like all of these things that I liked, and then all of these things that just made me so mad, and then all of these things that made me feel, and then all these things that made me feel unpleasant. So it's just, in a way, that's almost the essence of a check it, really. But I do think I liked the show enough that I could give it either rating and I would feel justified, and that makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
Because it does so many good things and does them well, and then it just does so many bad things in the worst way possible, and I just wish it could have stayed consistent in one or the other. Like, could you be a bad show or could you be a good show? Could you pick one and stick to it? I'd really appreciate that, Gundam Build Divers. Could you just throw me a fucking bone here? But anyway, I think that I'm gonna give it a check it, mostly because that's the essence of a check it. I think that you're gonna go into the show and you're going to either like it or you're not going to, and I think that you should give it a watch and see if it is your cup of tea, because I liked the show, but I don't think I'm going to give it a like it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
I just want to draw attention when you were giving that first half of the spiel and your southern accent was coming out a little bit.
Okay, anyway. Well, that's just how much I feel intensely about the show.
She feels so intensely the southerner is coming out. I mean,
that only really happens when I'm very emotional, alright? Anyway. You're throwing me off. Anyway, so I will say that I probably will never go back and rewatch this show. I think the rewatchability on the show is very low, and I think that's why I skipped back to a check it instead of a like it. I think most shows that I like enough, I can at least recommend to somebody and I would rewatch with them. I think that I could recommend the show to somebody, but I wouldn't watch it with them.
Yeah.
I think that I've had my experience with Gundam Build Divers, and I think I'm done. That doesn't mean it's a bad show. Doesn't mean it's a great show. It's just okay. It's something that you may or may not take something from, so give it a check. Alright, alternate anime recommendation. I really want people to watch Gundam Build Fighters, because if I had not watched Gundam Build Fighters, I'm gonna be honest, probably wouldn't have touched this one with a 10-foot pole. Never been somebody who was super into Gundam.
I'll change that.
Oh, we'll see.
I'll fix that.
Yeah, okay. Fix!
I'll fix it.
Fix, like there's something wrong with me at a molecular level.
If you don't like Gundam, there's something wrong with you, like, clearly.
I just want to let you know that the views that are expressed by certain hosts are not the thoughts and feelings of every host upon the podcast. Thank you. Anyway.
I think Cassie might enjoy Iron Blooded also.
She would. I was thinking that, too. I mean, I dropped it, and I'm not too big on it, but when I think about it, Cassie would probably really like that show.
Who knows? But this is my review, and y'all need to and let me finish. Anyway, so yeah, definitely check out Gundam Build Fighters because I loved the shit out of that show, and I wasn't expecting to. It's one that I've rewatched many times and would probably rewatch again. I bought it. I spent a good $80 on that box set. And I got it on sale, but it's still a big chunk of change to drop for one box set, and that's because I think it's extremely worth it. It's so fun. It's everything that I had hoped this show was going to be, and maybe that also was to Divers' detriment, is they count everything that's going to come out after Fighters has to try.
If they had called it something else besides Gundam Build something, it wouldn't have at least tried to have lived up to that pedigree as much, but I think because they kept the build in there, that worked against its favor because the first Gundam Build Fighters is just so good at what it does. It
was just such a good show, so definitely check that out, especially if you watch Divers and you enjoy it for whatever reason. Go and watch where it came from, because everything that's come after it is trying to ride that hype train and just fails. I do think it came closer to being more fun than Try, which I dropped immediately.
Yeah, don't watch Build Fighters Try at all. don't do it.
But anyway, I'm gonna go off and let John talk now. But yeah, check it and definitely check out Gundam Build Fighters because that show was great.
Alright, so on to me. Yeah, I really agree with pretty much everything you two have already said. There's some things about this series that I really loved while watching it. There were things that made me audibly groan and roll my eyes while watching it as well. There were leaps in logic that I was like, okay, switch brain off time. Let's not think too much about where where this has come from or what has happened here. Let's just enjoy the ride. And that's not something I normally need to do with a Gundam series. Normally I love, like, pulling at the strings and tying it all together when it comes to Gundam. But I still enjoyed this series to give it a like it. Not enough to give it a love it. Just as a whole package. Yeah. I give it a like it. Check it out if you have any interest in Gundam and virtual reality. Maybe that combination. I'd like giant robots and virtual reality. The idea of, like, if the idea of building something and then putting it into a game and being able to ride inside it as a full-size giant robot appeals to you, give this a try. But if not, then, well, at least check it out and see what you think. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Fair enough. But for me, I'm giving it a like it.
Alternate anime recommendation.
As for alternate anime recommendation, I was sitting here for a bit, humming and hawing. But something about the look and feel of the worlds and the characters in particular ended up reminding me of another giant robot series, although different one, Zoids Genesis. Specifically Genesis with this regard. it's a colorful world, with also a young protagonist, who who ends up getting a they fish out a robot liger, which in real life is a cross between a lion and a tiger, but in Zoids, all the protagonists pilot a liger Zoid, because they can't decide between one or the other, I guess. And ends up becoming the ace pilot of this liger. Like struggles to like live up to the capabilities of the liger, and then goes off on an adventure with these two other Zoids pilots, and eventually saves the world, basically, to sum up the plot very, very, very loosely. But there's intrigue, there's some political stuff going on, but like there's a sense of adventure in Zoids Genesis that I got a bit of here, that I really enjoyed with Zoids Genesis. Like, Zoids fans tend to like look at Genesis as like that odd weird cousin that they don't really agree with. But for me, it's actually one of my favorite entries in the franchise, so maybe I'm the weird one, who knows, but that's my alternate anime recommendation. If you really enjoyed this series, give Zoids Genesis a try. You might find something there you like.
All
so
right.
Yeah.
Cool beans. So spoilers.
Spoiler room.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go. Also, before we actually start talking, when you gave it a like it, Dominic audibly was very upset because they were banking you giving it a love it on one scene with the little, when she turns into like the little Gunpla thing and jumps into their arms.
I was like, John's gonna give it a love it on this scene alone, and then you...
I did love that scene. It
was just like, oh, she's basically now a frame arms girl. That's what she is.
Yeah, basically.
I am so fucking pissed I had that issue with Hobby Link Japan, and my pre-order of that has been deleted, and now its order stopped, so I can't order it again.
That sucks.
I have to wait for it to come back in stock.
I'm sure it will, eventually.
I'm sure it will,
but that does
I just
suck.
need to wait.
So how did you guys feel about that situation with her and transferring her over and blah, blah, blah?
I mean, I knew it was coming because I saw all the figures and stuff well before I even got to that part of the show.
It just seems like a very Deus Ex Machina, though. It was very strange how it kind of like, oh, let's just do this thing. Also, the entire like conflict at the end was really weird, too. How'd you guys feel about the end of the show, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
I mean, there were a lot of really cheap, corny elements to it, and you probably could argue that they could have done something a little bit more coherent or something like that, but I think I kind of like the whole idea of like, I was thinking about this while we were watching, like the whole, they have this virtual world and all these people have sort of like come to it and poured their time and their energy into, you know, creating an experience that's, you know, fun and enjoyable for them. And like Sarah is kind of like as it's explained in the show, she's kind of like the culmination of all this, all these emotions from these players, and she became like a real person or whatever. So, like, at first I was just like, oh, okay, this is gonna be, you know, a 5-episode ordeal where they're trying to save this girl. But at the end I was just kind of like, you know, it's kind of cool that, you know, everyone got together and tried to save their little virtual waifu who represents everything that the world means to them, I guess. And so I liked the sort of sentimental bullshit behind it all.
Yeah.
I liked the sentimental bullshit, but the conflict itself I found to be a little bit overdramatic.
A little bit, yeah.
Especially because
Yeah.
it's just like, oh no, if in a worst case scenario, the servers are gonna break. Oh no, it's not like we could ever recreate a video game at the demand of...
They did, acknowledge that. There's that part where they're like, we could just build it again if things go bad. And
Yeah, but that's at the very end of it. Like, they never take that into consideration at the beginning. Like, oh no. And then, like, there's this very weird thing where they try and, like, put a lot of emphasis on Sarah's life. Like, hey, you're literally gonna be killing something, like a literal life form. And the other people are like, yeah, but it'll ruin our gaming experience. I don't know,
I mean, have you talked to gamers? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
I guess, but it just seemed like a lot of forced tension. I don't know.
There was actually one bit when, like, something came up and, like, all of our data was lost. I yelled out to my screams, like, this is why you do backup servers! This is why you back up your data! So you don't lose it in the event of a major file catastrophe loss thing happening.
I mean, it would suck, but it's not worth killing someone over.
I know.
And then they had this whole, like, existential crisis about whether she was a human being or not. And then, like, the ferret dude apparently was trying to, like, save GBM because of his friend, who I guess it's highly implied that he might be disabled or has some sort of issue, but that's never really completely explored.
They don't ever, like, tell you what it is, but they heavily hint.
It's just, I don't know. Sort of disability. The whole back half seemed really messy. Although, I did mention to Dominic's, there was that part where Riku flies into her arms, and she flies into his arms, and they roll around, and they're like, yes! And I'm like, aw, this is real cute. And then Dominic was just like, look, he traveled and he found the waifu. He saved his waifu, Cassie.
I was saying this as the scene was going on, and she was like, stop it, don't ruin it for me.
Yeah, because it's just like the Darling in the Franxx effect. Darling in the Franxx was a fucking, like, train wreck at the end. But I still enjoyed the ending mostly because of the sappy bullshit, and the same thing happened with Divers. It was it was a huge fucking train wreck that was covered with a nice little bow. And I was like, well, I really like the bow. It has some sparkles on it. I like it.
And that's how I know to always impress Cassie. Just slap a nice bow on something.
Yeah, I mean, if you just, like, throw, like, two lovers or childhood friends running into each other's arms to realize the power of friendship and love, I'm gonna get that. That's gonna get me almost every time. You're a sucker for it, too.
I mean... yeah.
You were the one to admit it before I audibly said it. You're like, ah, God, this is happening. I'm a sucker for this shit.
That's true. I can't deny that.
That did occur. What about you, John?
Yeah. Also a complete sucker for that kind of scene. And I was like, yeah, they did it. They did the thing. I was like, neat. She actually had, like, her Gunpla self is her in-game Gunpla, and then she's just like, you know what, fuck this, fuck my giant robot, I want to get in his robot with him again, and as old times, like, yeah, of course you do.
Yeah, that was cute.
And that sounded like innuendo, as I said.
Yeah, a little bit.
This isn't how I want this to come across.
Hey, baby, you want to ride in my Gunpla tonight? You wanna build together, if you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
No. No. That's not what I meant. I meant it was like a sweet moment.
I'm gonna smash you to pieces, baby.
Can you stop? Can you please just stop? Can we not do this? You can do this later, but not on the podcast when people are going to be listening to you make inappropriate comments.
I don't see the problem. I wasn't gonna do this. John pointed out the innuendo. I just followed up.
Yeah.
I'm helping a brother out. Anyway, continue, John. You were saying.
I've completely lost train of thought now.
That's alright. Is there any other spoilers you wanted to talk about specifically? Because we just talked about, like, the second half at this rate.
Yeah.
I really love the conflict that came up about this is the old system that we used to use, and Riku agreed to do the old style Gunpla battle where your Gunpla is actually physically fighting, sort of similar but not the same to what it was in
Build Fighters.
Build Fighters, and before they start fighting, like, Riku agrees that this is it, and I will never use I'll never Gunpla battle again or something like that. Maybe I'm misremembering. But then, like, the next episode, he's building up a new Gunpla, and then he goes into thing again, like, completely going back on that promise. Like, so why did you say that in the first place? Maybe I'm remembering it slightly wrong, but...
Yeah, that was long enough ago that I don't remember that specific segment that well. I honestly, until you brought it up, kind of forgot that whole thing took place.
I did find that that conflict interesting. Like this gunpla of mine is one I've built up because I've built it, broke it apart in fights, put it back together, improved on it, learned its flaws through that, fought with it again, broke it again, and then it's something I've built up over years and years of continually battling with this one gunpla, whereas yours, you can get it completely smashed up in one fight, but then it will be pristine for the next without you putting any extra effort. I did like that premise of, like, how would that, like, that was, like, that reminded me of, like, part of a little bit of the tension that I had with Build Fighters was, like, that was a cool fight, but now his Gunpla is, like, smashed to shit. What the he's got more fights to come. Is he gonna be able to get his Gunpla back together?
Yeah, I remember.
Shit.
I remember when I first started Build Divers, like, there was kind of this relief, I guess, because I was like, oh, now the Gunplas aren't gonna get completely, like, smashed up every single fight. And as someone who occasionally does build Gunpla, you know, I think that was one of the things that always kind of stressed me out about the first, you know, Build Fighters, is that every fight it's like, oh man, they're gonna get completely wrecked, you know, like, all that hard work.
Like, this is a very expensive hobby.
Yeah.
As it is, that's making it even more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine's been broken. I need to buy a new kit.
Yeah. And then with this one, it was like, oh, okay, that doesn't happen anymore. And so there was this relief, but I also think for the most part that also took a lot of the tension out of the fights. Is that there was no real consequence to losing. And there was...
Oh no, I lost some points.
Yeah. And I mean, like, this is, like, one of the fights that I really liked was the, Riku versus Tiger, in the second half, where they just completely go all out, and both of them are, like, almost, like, Tiger's suit, like, loses a lot of its, like, parts and everything. Like, it can still move and everything, but it loses a lot of its parts, and Riku's Gundam can't even move by the end of it, you know? But in like, Build Fighters, that would have been like, oh man, now I gotta, like, start from scratch, and I gotta rebuild this. And, you know, there would be, like, a part where you would see them doing that, you know? And, like, so it felt like them building and, like, losing parts of their Gunpla, like, helped. Like, there was this sort of thing that they could do that helped them, like, learn and grow. as a result of the fights, and I think Build Divers kind of loses that a little bit by having almost all the fights be basically no consequence.
Yeah, at least they talk about that, though. That's really
cool.
Yeah, like... And that was one of the things that, like, left him bitter about GBN, was like, yo, you don't have this worry anymore. You just get it so easy. That was part of the initial conflict, was like him having those better feelings towards this easy mode version that everyone flocked to.
Jeez, guys, get good. I'm joking. Get good at the real thing. Don't run away to your online servers. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
So yeah, that gave me like a bit of food for thought at the time, and I really enjoyed that little discussion that happened and the conflict. Then he ended up helping out anyway. I mean, I guess it was worth a lot of convincing.
I mean, he gives his reasons for wanting to help out. I think that they were glossed over, but I think a lot of things in the second half were glossed over. So, I mean, it wasn't as much of consequence to me. They just needed a way to make the Deus Ex Machina actually work, which at least they gave at least a little bit of explanation for why it happened, instead of just having it happen. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's a build decal this time instead of a break decal. It's totally not the same thing. But yes, it's the same concept behind it.
Did you have any spoilers you wanted to talk about?
No, not really. It was mostly the ending that I wanted to talk about, because I thought that it was interesting, but also kind of meh, but also fun, but also sad, but
so just more of those mixed feelings.
It's a lot of mixed feelings. I did, however, like that they all met up in person just to go and hang out in the video game again. That was fucking dorky. That was fucking dorky as shit. That was super dorky. It was fun, but I was also like, But yeah, throughout the show, I don't feel like there was anything for me outside of maybe Ayame stuff that kind of stood out. I already ranted about the episode focusing on the girls, so I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
I think I'm done, unless you guys want to talk about something else. But...
I'm basically good.
The only other thing I just remember was Kyoya, the champ, and like him with his resolve about what side he was on with regarding Sada, and him being like, okay, I'm too important to risk everything for this one goal, apparently. But then he specifically left a way for Riku to fuck everything up.
Yeah, I don't think that it came to the point where he was like, I'm so important. I think it was just more he was caught between a rock and a hard place. Yeah. Because he had initially reached out to help Sada and then got busted. Which, in and of itself, it's like, bro, come on. But they had to set that up. I think that I don't think that he, per se, was in a situation where his status was causing a problem. I think he just didn't know what else he could do in his position, period.
Yeah.
So he, and by his position, I mean the situation he was in. He was sheltering the problem, and then he had to find a way to still have control over the situation, but also go against what he believed in. And I think that also is reflected in how he kept asking Sada exactly what she wanted, because when even she wanted to be deleted initially, he was like, well, shit, what do I do? So, I don't think he ever didn't want to save Sada. It just was that Dominic had to point it out to me. He just wanted to be an obstacle for Riku to push through to get to her in the first place. So, it was weird, but it was way more intricate than some of the other stuff that the show tried to do, so.
It was a little predictable when I saw the setup for it, but then I still cheered when he fucking did it. And, like, I've got mixed feelings about that scene, but yeah, it is still one of my one of my favorite moments from the series, I'll admit.
I did laugh when he
but
ripped
yeah.
off his black outfit and it was the exact same goddamn outfit, only white.
But
And I
white,
was like, did this motherfucker just rip off his clothes for it to be the exact same set of goddamn clothes? And Dominic was like, but Cassie, they're white. And I was like, oh my fucking god.
I thought that was cool.
I thought it was kind of dumb, but hey, whatever, it's fine.
But yeah, anywho, I think that's all that we can really think of to talk about, so...
Yeah.
Alright,
Yeah.
wrap it up.
Wrap up.
That's been episode 88 of the Annie Chat Box. That's been Gundam Build Divers. Hope you all have a good night. And with that, I say bye-bye.
Oyasuminasan.
Bye, motherfuckers.
Wow.
Get in the fucking giant robot.
No, Dad! Oyasumi. Bye.